For this project, I'm going to go over the goals of creating something that would look good on a t-shirt. And then I'm going to refactor it from WebGL to WebGPU, then go over the details of how all the code is laid out. Lastly, I'm going to add drag controls at the end. So feel free to jump around, links in the description. I want to design something that would look good on a t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a black t-shirt, or maybe not a black t-shirt, but this is the project right here. This started out as riffing on the artist Joshua Davis's style of work, where he tends to, using random number generators, create a bunch of shapes. They could be sprites. The style I'm thinking of is where he actually creates custom drawings and feeds those to a system that randomly places them and then layers things up. In this case, there's just 2 layers, but you could expand this to have many, many layers. The foreground layer has some Three.js primitives that have an outline effect on them. And then the background is some Three.js sprites with a paintbrush texture applied to them and then randomly. And if you reload, you get a different random composition each time. I've removed the outlines on the primitives because I think this looks less sloppy. And every time we reload, we get a different random composition. Check out my course, Learn Three.js Basics, where I cover the basics of Three.js, from textures and materials to primitives, lights, cameras, shadows, interactivity. I think these would look good on a t-shirt. It's just some abstract stuff. You could replace the primitives with other models that have meaning for you. I wrote down some ideas of things that might have meaning to me, like math symbols or stuff in nature, flowers, symbols that represent nature, classic arcade stuff, Arkanoid, Asteroids, Missile Command, Defender, Pac-Man, etc. Yeah, you get the idea. Whatever it is that resonates with you, you could replace these primitives with those symbols. And maybe you could even replace the background stuff too. Anyway, this project was created using the WebGL renderer. The first thing we're going to do today is to update the code, the index-js file and the index.html file, so that it works with the WebGPU renderer in the latest version of Three.js. The reason I want to do that is there are a couple of things in the WebGPU ecosystem that I like using that make this process easier. Like, there are some TSL elements like shape circle, which I want to leverage, and the background. I want to see how that looks too. Let's get started in the index.html here. Here we're importing version 176. Instead, let's change these imports. Okay, so instead of this simple import map, I'm going to replace it with this slightly more complicated import map. And I could update this to be 179. Actually, I think 180 is the most recent. Let's try that. If I save it, it's going to blow up. And the error just says, what are you even talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Actually, it's only pissed about this. Gosh, what is the path? 3/add-ons. So 3/add-ons. Now you're happy? Now we're happy. Right, GPU renderer. Like that. Yeah, that's it. It works. Although it's telling me it's mad because I'm calling request animation frame. That's not the pattern that we use anymore. So let's fix that. Down here in my animate method, don't need to call this initially. And I don't need this request animation frame. Instead, up here under the renderer, I'll say renderer.set animation loop animate. Oh, darn it. Because I'm wrapping all of the scene functionality in this init function, it can't find that animate method, I'll just drop it here as a quick fix. Yay, now we're cooking with gas. I want to zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit too far out. Let's make it 6.5. I just want to fill up the screen a little bit more. Yeah. Big shout out goes to Exponent for making me a brand ambassador. Yeah, check them out to ace your next tech interview. Here we are. I think that's t-shirt worthy. I think exploring some of the color palettes would be good. But first things first, let's talk about this so in a way that you can recreate it too. So we're starting here, loading textures. Okay, I've defined a new loading manager and saying, hey, when you're done loading, fire this init method and pass in those images, which right now is an empty array. So don't fire it yet. Here's the loader, my list of strokes. Those correspond to the file names in my directory. And so for each one of those, let's set the path and load it. And once it's loaded, make sure it has its name and push it into that empty images array. Once all those are done, boom, onload, fire the init method. When this init function is called, it's just doing a lot of setup work. And finally down here, calling some of those methods. Bunch of meshes and bunch of sprites. Lastly, there's our animate method. That's just the loop. Okay, let's dig into those individual methods. Let's start at the top. Get sprite. It's going to take those images, randomly grab one, create a sprite, and place it, add it to the scene. Or actually, it's just returning it. I like the pattern where you return the thing you created instead of adding it to the scene. It feels more modular to me. Okay, we define a bunch of primitives and then put those all into an array. And now this get mesh method does the similar thing as this get sprite, only it's returning a mesh instead of a sprite. I like this comment here because I think a gradient on those, instead of just having a basic material, a gradient would look nice. Don't you think? Yeah, I think that would look nice. A couple of ways we could achieve that would be to use a masking post, like kind of a masking effect to just mask a gradient in the shape of that thing. Or I don't know if there is a way to create a TSL material that has a gradient, but independent of lighting. And I kind of want the gradient to be a flat gradient. You know what I mean? Leave a comment below if you got a suggestion on how to create a nice flat gradient on each one of these primitives. All right, back to this get mesh method. Pretty straightforward, right? Grab a random geometry and a color. Create a material with that color, a mesh, randomly size it, set the rotation, and return it. Now we just create a bunch of those. How many? I guess it defaults to 75. And a bunch of meshes. 50 of them. And that's it. That's really it. That's all there is to the scene at all. I think it would be fun to explore different color palettes. Like, we've got this one just sitting around. Yeah, I don't love that one. It's different though. Coolers.co. Explore trending palettes. I want something that's darker and more kind of broody. That could be cool. That's not broody enough. That's not quite broody enough. Broody, I want like kind of dark and no. We're getting there. I'm running out of palettes and patience. I'm thinking blacks and red. Oh, you might have one. This is good. Let's grab copy as an array. Good. Comment this out. Const palette. Okay, what does that even look like? What? That's great. Except the background color is not so great. Was that what was in my clipboard? No, not exactly. For right now, I'm just using one variable name. Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. And if we change the background color to, I don't know, how about black? That's how it would look on a black t-shirt. It looks too dark. I like it. Look at those cool compositions. I'd love to talk about too, using a less random number generator so that you can control the layout. Once you find a layout you like, you can just grab it and keep it. Also useful would be the ability to edit a composition. For example, to use your mouse to come in here and, oh, that's so great. Come in here and like click an object, drag it somewhere else, or hold the shift key and click it to delete it, for example. Maybe I'll come back and do that. Hey, it's future me. I went ahead and added those controls like I described. The ability to drag objects around and the ability to delete them. It wasn't that difficult, and I just want to show you what it looks like. DragControls was the answer. I'm instantiating it, passing in an array of the objects I want to drag, which is just these meshes, passing in the camera and the DOM element. And this is what it looks like. How cool is this? So now I can pan around the scene and I can grab any one of these and move it to somewhere else if I want. And I can press and hold the shift key to click and remove that one. It'll be fun. As I click to remove it, it just dissolves. Anyway, that's unnecessary because I'm just moving stuff around and deleting stuff. If I refresh, I get a new composition, same thing. That's it. So real quick, instantiate the drag controls, add some event listeners, drag start, drag end, hover on, hover off. And I think drag start and drag end are pretty self-explanatory. And what I'm doing in here is just enabling some additional functionality. With none of this stuff added, just to comment it all out, I can still drag stuff around, but I'm also getting the orbit controls interfering, which is sort of not the desired effect. So I could just disable those orbit controls whenever I'm dragging an object. So I'm dragging around, and if I grab an object, that's disabled. I also want the ability to delete a mesh. So I've added this enable delete flag. That's toggled with this key listener here. Do you see this? On key down, if it's a shift key, then enable delete. On key up, disable it. So it only works while you're pressing the shift key. And here's the drag end. This just re-enables the orbit controls. Hover on, this is going to call a function on the mesh. Hang on a second, I got to save it first. Okay, this is going to call a function on the mesh that shows the outline. What does that look like? I'll tell you. In this get mesh method, I've added an outline that's invisible. Visible equals false. I'm just using a mesh basic material and telling it to be 3 backside, and that's the appearance it gets. Adding this function called handle hover to the user data object for this mesh allows me to call that later here down here in the hover on. Oh, it says, do you have an object? Then you can call this thing. Pretty cool, right? That allows you to further edit your composition. Leave a comment, share this video. I'd love to hear what you'd like to see, what questions you have, comments, criticisms, advice, so on. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe.